Hello everyone! Today we're going to be jumping back into Historic Brawl with Imoti, Celebrant of Bounty, and oh boy are we going to be celebrating Bounty today. Imoti is a 5 mana 3/1 with Cascade, and it will give spells we cast with mana value 6 or greater Cascade as well. If you've taken a look over at the curve of our deck, we have a overloaded 6+ mana value pile of all of these valuable cards. Now down at the lower end of our deck we have a lot of ramp. Now we have a nice mix of both mana rocks and creatures, and all of that is going to synergize very well with the Paradox engine that we may find. Now, one of the things you might have noticed is where is all of our interaction? We're playing a deck with blue and there aren't any counterspells here? What's going on? Well, since we are playing a Cascade deck, there's going to be nothing more disheartening than cascading into a counterspell that we won't be able to cast. So instead we opted to have hybrid removal options. Things like Brazen Borrower, where we can use Petty Theft and return a non-land permanent to our opponent's hand, but if we accidentally cascade into it, it's a 3/1 with flying. You know, we have similar value here. Beanstalk Giant is a ramp spell, also a Beanstalk Giant, which is going to be very strong for us. Going on, we also have Mirror Shell Crab. This will count as a counterspell for us. We can channel it, and that's going to go ahead and let us counterspell unless our opponent plays 3. And then if not, it's a 7 mana spell that has Cascade off Imoti, which is also going to be very good for us. We also have Colossal Sky Turtle with 2 channel abilities here, letting us return a creature to its owner's hand, or letting us grab something out of our graveyard. Both are very strong, and of course its default state being Colossal Sky Turtle, it's going to be a 7 mana Cascade spell with Imoti. Some of our other interaction is in our lands with Otawara and Boseiju, both being very strong options for dealing with our opponent's board. Now, the other thing that we have going on is huge creatures that are going to cost less over the course of the game. Things like Icebreaker Kraken, this is 12 mana, but it's going to cost 1 less for each snow land we control. So we can actually cast this for fairly cheaply, and then get multiple Cascade triggers off of Imoti, because Icebreaker Kraken could hit another spell with mana value 6 or greater. We'll be able to cast that Cascade there as well. But at the top end we have Emrakul. It's going to get cheaper based on the card types in our graveyard, so that's another example of one of those cards that we can get out a little bit cheaper. We also have the Great Henge, which is going to get reduced in cost based on the greatest power among creatures we control. So those are some very strong ways to do that, along with our other ramp. We also have down here in the lower mana slots, Nalea here, which can have our creatures cost 1 less. We also have Goreclaw, having our creatures with power 4 or greater costs 2 less. So between all of this, we should find a lot of decent ways to go ahead and reduce the cost of some of our expensive creatures, make up for the fact that our curve is so skewed towards that top end, and get a lot of Cascade value. Now, if you guys have been enjoying my videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on my latest content. And if you do enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. Let's go ahead and see how this deck does. Alright, on the play here. Do we want to keep this starting hand? I think we do. We've got the turn 1 Delighted Halfling into the Engineer on turn 2. This is a pretty good ramp setup. We're playing into Thalion the Gitrog. So we do have our Mana Dorks out on the battlefield before the Thalion Gitrog resolves, having them enter tapped. Let's go ahead and play out the Engineer. Next turn we go Imoti, unless they kill the Engineer, in which case we'll just play a Worn Power Stone instead. Now we can go Hedron Archive Worn Power Stone, and I kind of like this more. I think our opponent is holding up a removal spell for our commander, which is the reason why we're taking this particular route. Because now it seems like they just blanked their whole turn for nothing, and they did, right? So if you can force your opponent to skip a turn, that's pretty good. Not to mention that we've now guaranteed that we have more mana than we'll possibly need. Broward Time gonna hit Hedron Archive, sure. That's fine. We have 2 fewer mana than the ton of mana that we had before. And we still have a ton of mana, so let's Cascade here. Hit Cold Steel Heart. We're gonna play this on green. We definitely want to have access to more green. And then I think we just foretell the Epiphany. And, doesn't really matter. We'll attack for the 1 damage. No reason to keep that mana up. Next turn, we can cast Epiphany. Cascade, take an extra turn. Cast out, hits Imoti. I think we have Hullbreaker Horror. I'm gonna leave Imoti right there. I think it'll be cheaper. We're just gonna end the turn. We'll flash out Hullbreaker Horror. Then we'll use Hullbreaker Horror on our next turn. Okay, Sithis, sure. Phyrexian Arena. Alright, so opponent's tapped out now. Flash out Hullbreaker Horror. Alright. Let's see, do we have enough mana? Yeah, we do. So, let's go play our Mana Dork first. Return Cast Out. Get Imoti. Extra turn with Epiphany. Return Borrowed Time. Yeah, good game, we've got it. Alright, here we are on the play, and this is a perfectly keepable hand. We're gonna start with Castle Garenbrig, since we don't have the forest to enable that being untapped. Gonna play all of our slow mana first, so Guardian Idol here. Next turn we have Harrow into Arcane Signet. And that's provided we don't draw a land. Ideally we will draw that land. We do, alright. So let's go ahead and sacrifice this snow-covered island. And we're gonna replace it with both a forest and an island. Play out Arcane Signet. And now we have access to 6 mana. So Emoti's gonna be our play for next turn. We have Wormcoil after that, which can be very strong. Can also go Great Henge for the Cascade. Lots of different options. The fact that our opponent has decided to tap down completely means we're all in the clear for Imoti here. And Basswood Surge is a great one to get here. Okay, let's see. We have more green than blue right now, so let's double down on 2 blue lands. Nice. So now we do have 9 mana right now. Even if Imoti gets killed here. Okay, that doesn't do it. Yeah, alright. Alright, so with absolutely no access to blue mana, except for the Gwenna, I think we're gonna go ahead and take a mulligan here. This is much better. Go ahead and keep these 7. Now, I'm gonna start with this land, tapped. We are playing into Atali. Now, Atali is one of our worst matchups, just because, as you could imagine, Atali is capable of stealing some really good things out of our deck. That being said, though, this does pose a very unique situation for us, where we actually are probably going to be in the best case for resolving multiple things off of Cascade. A lot of the times when we go ahead and start cascading, our opponents are just going to concede. That's one of the things you have to accept when you're playing a deck that focuses on getting a bunch of game-winning threats into play. So we might actually get to resolve a couple of spells. Now, opponent, no access to red except for their 1 mana dork. And they do now have the mountain. Alright. Let's go Imoti here. Petty Theft. Let's go ahead and put that back in our opponent's hand. Slow them down. No need to attack, we'll end the turn. We can flash out Brazen Borrower, end of our opponent's turn. That shouldn't be an issue. Next turn we can play out Vorinclex. Sure. Yep, slow ramping. I think the Brazen Borrower play there was right. Again, slowing down Natali is really going to be the key to getting out ahead of them. Okay, flash out that. And we do have Sky Turtle. Now, we can get a Cascade trigger off Sky Turtle, and I do think that's what we're going to do. Find a Harrow. Let's go ahead, sacrifice this, replace it with some Snowlands instead. Green and blue. Move to combat. Swing like that. End the turn. Alright, so here's a Tali. Fingers crossed they hit something like an Arcane Signet. Maybe not Icebreaker Kraken. It's a little less than ideal. It happens, though. I think we go for the Vorinclex next turn, unless we draw something that we can Cascade with. Honestly, we're just gonna go ahead and trade there. Yeah, so Vorinclex it is. Grab ourselves some forests. Gonna go ahead and play out a Mind Stone. End the turn. I think we might want to draw with the Mind Stone, even though we have Paradox Engine. Finding more spells to Cascade with is going to be huge for us. Though, as soon as we flip Vorinclex, we're actually going to be in a really good spot. Do we want to bank on the flipping Vorinclex? Let's draw a card first. First and foremost. See what we can work with. Wolf Willowhaven. So not the best. I'm just gonna block like this. Yep. 9 poison counters, we stay alive. So yeah, we have to hit really good on the Vorinclex flip. So let's see what we find. Alright, well. These two are both pretty good. Let's go Wolf Willowhaven there. No attacks. Draw 7 cards. Discard 2. Forest and, I think Waterlogged Grove. Alright, we're gonna put a stop here. Because we are 100% gonna tap down Atali. Sure. Yep. Go pre-combat. We're gonna tap down Atali. Just because we can't deal with that. And now, here we actually have to chump with Jin-Gitaxias. Do I care about blocking the 1? I put 2 versus 3. I think we will. We'll chump block here. It's only going to reduce by 1 because trample, but I think it's going to be for the best. Okay. Alright, well, Karn's Temporal Sundering is going to be huge for us. Okay, just those two. Make Coma really large, and actually, let's go like this. That way we can pull Imoti out of Lightning. lightning bolt range. Alright. Now, let's go land. Can pick a blue. 2, 3. So we do have access to 5 if we do this. So let's go Paradox Engine, and then we go Temporal Sundering. Temporal Sundering. Extra turn for us. Let's put Icebreaker Kraken back in our hand. And we've got it. Alright. Okay, so here we are on the draw. We're playing into Calyx. Calyx is a very difficult matchup since it's loaded with potential for a lot of early game aggro while we're ramping, and additionally gives us some issues if it can resolve one of its single target removal enchantments. I think we don't need a Crater Hoof. We can go ahead and bottom that. Mulligans are fairly straightforward. I just wanted something that would give us a little bit nicer of an early game. Starting with an Elvish Mystic out on the battlefield. Fortunately for us, Sithis is pretty good for our opponent. Let's go for this. I think we just hold up Harrow. Make our opponent... this is one of those situations where it would be so fun to have a counterspell. Harrow into counterspell is a very funny simic play pattern. Because your opponent thinks they're perfectly safe into 3 green. I'm gonna scare them when they cast something if they do, but Hardened Scales is fine. That's not an issue. Okay, white land. Yep. Seems like they were playing reserved. Gonna use the Harrow now. See, we want to keep that double green, so let's go green-blue. Dreamroot, Cascade, let's go Fabled Passage. No attacks. Activate this. Gonna grab blue. And here's Imoti. Into the north. Grab another green land. So now we're in a pretty good spot. Sure, we have an elk. That's fine. Ironically enough, that does buff March of the Ends. Now, do I think we want to go for Immortal Sun first? I do. I think Immortal Sun is going to be the way to go. And now we can just attack with both of our creatures. Yep. If our opponent can deal with this at instant speed, they can kill our Elvish Mystic. I don't feel too sad about that. More importantly, our opponent gave us a super powerful attacker in our Elk Imoti. Secret mode unlocked. Have your opponent turn your commander into an elk and then beat their face with it? Yeah, sure. Alright, getting some damage through. Now, we do have Sky Turtle that we can use to deal with the Calyx. Now, we do pose an issue if our opponent has Calyx and then, like, a 1 mana away to get an removal enchantment, because they will be able to deal combat damage with an enchanted creature being Sithis. Yep. Make a copy of Hardened Scales, most likely. Or, sorry. Or an enchanted creature, not enchantment creature. Now, notably, Imoti is still legendary. Let's see. So I think we just go Temporal Sundering here. This makes the most sense. Extra turn for us. Let's go ahead, put that back in our opponent's hand. Channel Sky Turtle, put Calyx back in our opponent's hand. And now we should be in a really strong spot. Attack here with Imoti. Now, there's no way they have the seal away. Ah, Iganjo. Okay, that's fine. Back in the command zone you go. I think we just replay Imoti here. Cascade. Hedron Archive. Great Henge. Cascade. Cold Steel Heart. I think we'll go green on this. That's fine. Great Henge for Llanowar Visionary, get a +1/+1 counter, draw 2 cards. We're in a pretty strong spot. So now Crater Hoof is an option for next turn. Could be very strong. We have 14 mana. 15, access to 15 mana next turn. Could be pretty good. Alright, sure. Back in the command zone you go. We'll just recast Imoti. That's not really a problem. Immortal Sun is going to keep giving us some strong value. Let's go Imoti. Cascade. Arcane Signet, there's some free mana. Alright, well, here's a creature with Cascade. Vorinclex. Two forests. Two +1/+1 counters. Let's put them on Imoti. Discard 2 cards. We are not going to need the migration path there. So now we have Alrund's next turn, Nykthos as well. We're in a pretty good spot. Opponent only has access to 1 green mana. Alright, the elk is back. It's a bigger elk now. Honestly, I think there's something a little cathartic about being able to end the game with a big old elk like this. Alright. So I'm thinking next turn we go Nykthos, Alrund's Crater Hoof, maybe? We have choices. Turning off Vorinclex's activated abilities is really good for our opponent. Oh, Time Warp as well. Okay, so I think our opponent concedes here. Like, almost 100%. Let's go Alrund's first. And then let's go Time Warp. Then let's go Empath. And we will research. And let's grab, I don't know, Ulamog. Yeah, that should do it. Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed. As we saw, Imoti is a very powerful commander. We're playing a game of strong early game ramp, and we're closing out the game with insane, huge value spells that we're getting Cascade triggers off of into more valuable spells, and really just overwhelming our opponent. As long as we have enough mana and the opportunity, we will be able to close out a game, even into some of our bad matchups. Now, that being said, we do run into one particular issue, and that is if our opponent has nothing but interaction, we're going to have a very difficult time actually landing and sticking those threats. And the other thing that is worth considering is we have a lot of high value win the game type cards in this deck, but we almost never get to actually play them because we are going to have our opponents conceding as soon as they see that we've put so much value onto the board. Now, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like, and if you have any ideas for another deck you'd like to see me play, why don't you let me know in a comment down below. I'll see you all next time.